welcome to the first ever virtual Stallion Parade here at Darley. The place looks fantastic. I'm in glorious isolation, and magnificent though it is, you could call it a lawn unto itself. It would of course be far better if you were here with us live, as we hope very much you will be in 2021. But for the next 45 minutes, you can have a look at a dozen or so of the finest Darley stallions here at Dalham Hall and also at Kildangan in Ireland. I'll be having some appropriately socially distanced tete-a-tetes with some of the key players who made these stallions what they are. And for all that you might not have oysters and champagne, there is plenty upon which to feast your eyes. But it wouldn't be a Darley Stallion Parade without the traditional call to arms from Darley's Director of Stallions, Sam Bullard. So, Sam, it's over to you.
Yes, Nick, thank you, and welcome to this extraordinary Darley Stallion Parade. What an incredible job the breeders have done this year in keeping this industry going with the foalings at home. And we would like to pay particular thanks to the thousands of key workers, the doctors, the nurses who have kept us safe during this period. On top of that, though, in our own industry, the breeders who have carried on foaling these mares, the men in the covering sheds, our breeding associations throughout Europe who have liaised with the governments to create protocols that have allowed this industry to carry on, which in turn will mean that there will be a crop of 2021. And for those of us who love our racing, that is absolutely crucial. We're going to show you a number of stallions this morning from their homes in Kildangan Stud in Ireland and Dalham Hall Stud in Newmarket. Since we were here this time last year, this roster of stallions is responsible for no less than 211 worldwide stakes winners. 27 of those are at the highest Group 1 level. One young horse that deserves special mention is Night of Thunder. With his eldest now being 3, no horse since the pattern began has had such a promising start to his stud career. Another horse that deserves particular mention is Exceed and Excel. He's heading back down to Australia, having completed his final season in Europe. During this time, he has been responsible for an incredible world record 500 individual 2-year-old winners. We were all so sad to lose the great Shamadal this year, but how lucky we are to have his brilliant son Blue Point standing at Kildangan, and how exciting it is to have 3 Group 1 winning juveniles to come onto the roster later on. As well as Blue Point, some of the other young horses we're going to show you include Massa, the 2 sons of Dubawi, Too Darn Hot and Postponed. There's Cracksman and there's Ribchester. So it is not surprising that we look forward to the future with huge excitement. As ever, these horses can only be successful if you, the breeders, support them with your mares. We are hugely grateful for that support. If you succeed, then we succeed. I really hope you enjoy the parade, and I wish you good health and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you, Sam, and by the wonders of this technology, I can tell you that the horses are now ready, and the first stallion to show you at Kildangan in Ireland is about to parade. And that horse had the notable distinction of being champion miler as a 3-year-old and as a 4-year-old. The horse to have done that immediately before him, no less a beast than Frankl. This horse raced in the Godolphin Blue. He's by Godolphin stalwart Ifraj. He's trained by Richard Fahey. I give you Ribchester. Ribchester, ladies and gentlemen, the European champion miler at 3 and again at 4. The last horse to have won those garlands before him was Frankl. Ribchester broke his maiden in the Group 2 Mill Reef Stakes over 6 furlongs at 2, and after hitting the board in the Guineas, won the Jersey Stakes at Royal Ascot and then the Group 1 Prix Jacques Lemarois at 3. Always talented, ever progressive. That earned Ribchester his first champion miler title, and 3 more top-level victories at 4 made him European champion for a second time. There was the Lockinge by a wide margin and the Prix du Moulin over in Paris, and in between, this win in the Queen Anne back at the Royal Meeting. He broke the straight mile track record that day. Ribchester, the fastest horse ever to race from the gates to Windsor Great Park in the history of the breed.
Ribchester's drifting towards the near side. Mutakayev in second place is trying to get to him, but as they run towards the line, Ribchester and William Buick are the Queen Anne winners.
Led up by Mick Sexton, Ribchester has covered some 423 mares in his first 3 seasons at stud, so breeders are giving him every chance to excel. He'll have his first yearlings at the sales this year, and it's worth remembering the blisteringly fast start his sire Ifraj made with his record-breaking first crop. It's a good time too to take note of the exceptional stallion career of the first son of Ifraj to retire to stud, Al Manzour's sire Wootton Bassett, who, good as he was, didn't have the brilliance of this fellow on the track. That's Ribchester. See the Royal Ascot record breakers' first yearlings at the sales soon. Thank you, Mick. So wonderful to see Ribchester looking so well over at Kildangan. We're back here at Dalham Hall in the beautiful sunshine, and the first stallion that we're going to show you here is the best by the best. He's a dual European champion at 3 and 4 and the best horse by his stallion, the extraordinary Frankl, and he was trained by John Gosden. John Cracksman was a pretty special horse, and we know what he did on the racecourse, but tell me about him when he first walked into the yard and what you thought of him.
Well, beautiful head and length of rein on him, good stride, good walk. I mean, that's probably one of his great attributes. And whenever Frankie or anyone got on the horse, the one thing they said, the use of his shoulder and the stride, and that was very apparent very quickly with him. He was a great horse to be around, a lot of character, strong-willed, and he took a little time to come to himself later in the year as a 2-year-old. He wasn't going to be a 6-furlong horse. He was always going to play to his strengths at a mile plus, and we were very thrilled the way he went and won as a 2-year-old, and he very much went from strength to strength, filled and strengthened into that frame, and showed a very positive attitude, wanted a race, and was a little unlucky, should have won an Irish Derby, got forced very wide, and ran a great race at Epsom, and then of course he came to his own very much over 1.25 miles, which was probably his very best trip.
I mean, his signature performances were both at Ascot, and he was brilliant in the first and spellbinding in the second.
Yes, he demolished his fields in the Champion Stakes. I mean, they were, they showed incredible acceleration, plenty of time for Frankie to wave at the crowd. His run in the Prix Gannet, actually, is one that a lot of people don't notice, but that was quick ground that day, and he simply flew down the hill at Longchamp and showed him a very clean pair of heels.
When he walked into the paddock, when he cantered down to post, just everything about him was just a little unusual. I mean that obviously in the most positive sense.
No, he was. I mean, he was a standout horse to look at, great presence, and he showed his character. I remember he'd like to show off. He reared up when my son was saddling him for the first Champion Stakes. There's that famous picture of him going straight up, down, and my son holding the saddle saying, "Have you finished? Right, here we go," and putting the saddle on. So, yeah, he did have that character. He actually, one thing I'd say, he didn't like really hot weather. He's a bit like some people, a bit lethargic in hot weather, and a couple of times they ran him in the heat, the Coronation, he won it, but that just wasn't quite his scene, hot weather. But apart from that, he was just a great horse to be around.
And a good character to train.
Very much so, and he was up for it in his work. Yeah, he could get a little bit lazy. Like the older they get a little wiser and a little lazy. But I tell you, he did when he put it in on the gallows here at Newmarket or in his race. You knew when he was about. He could just take 3 lengths straight out of any lead horse. He did win at 1.5 miles, but his best trip was 10 furlongs.
And a horse fundamentally with plenty of raw pace.
He could handle pretty well most ground. And his form book says that he did. At Epsom was quick enough, and so was the Curragh. But he ran some great races, and when he got be out of a pivotal mare, he got a little cut in the ground. He was impossible to stop.
Thank you, Cracksman, 2-time European champion racehorse, and thank you, Jack Bloom, for leading him up for us. Well, we talked a lot about numbers, high numbers with Cracksman. I'll give you some more now as regards the next stallion we're going to look at. And that stallion is Teofilo by Galileo out of Sparevarn, and bred and raced and trained by Jim Bolger as a fantastic 2-year-old. Now, he's been at Kildangan for 12 years and has just consistently produced top-class racehorses. After Royal Ascot this year had been completed, Teofilo had produced more wins in Group 1 races around the globe in 2020 than any other sire, including the very exciting French filly and the Prix Saint-Hilaire heroine Tack Wheel. So here he is. Feast your eyes on him. You can rely on him with each crop to deliver a good one. He's Teofilo. What a horse and what a stallion. Year in, year out, he gets stock you'd be thrilled to have bred. Take this filly, Sheikh Hamdan's Tawkil, winning the Group 1 Prix Saint-Hilary last month. She came out of the race rated behind only Love amongst all the fillies of her generation. She's Teofilo's 17th winner at racing's highest level. He's sired winners of the Irish Derby, Irish Thousand Guineas, the Irish St Leger, the Dewhurst, the Critérium International, the Prix Jean Prat, and the Melbourne Cup. Everything from dashing juveniles, as he himself was, to doughty stayers, all of them united by one thing: class, Teofilo class. Do you know a staggering 10% of his runners win or place in group races? Outstanding. And in 2020, Teofilo's ratio of stakes winners to runners trumps every other stallion in Europe but for his roster mates, the father and son duo of Dubawi and Night of Thunder. Teofilo, 16 years old now and led up by Mark Deering. Last year's yearlings sold for up to €400,000 and his foal average was a rewarding €97,000. Whatever you want to breed, a classic miler, a 2-year-old, a stayer, a sales horse, Teofilo has already sired one just like it. Thank you, Mark. I'm always fascinated to see horses settling into a relatively new career. This is Harry Angel. He's got his first foals on the ground now and he's letting down into a really smashing stallion. Gareth's with him and I'm with Adam Kirby, who enjoyed so many fine days on the racecourse on this horse. And Adam, can you remember your first impressions of him? Can you remember first sitting on him?
Yeah, the first morning we sat on him, I knew he was very good. You know, Clive's got great facilities, but he got to the top of the hill the morning I rode him very easy and... you know, he just oozes class.
That must give you some buzz when you get on the 2-year-old for the first time and think, whoa, we've got one here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great feeling, and you know, one thing I've always said is that's why you get up early, and that's why we're in the job we're in, for that buzz and to find that good horse. But to find him was super special.
But then you've got to hope they go and deliver something on the racecourse, and he delivered more than something, a multiple Group 1 winner. What do you think was his sort of signature performance? Was there a perfect performance?
The July Cup has to be one of his best performances. He relaxed beautifully and travelled very strongly, and it was just point and steer that day, and when I let him down, his turn of foot was second to none.
It is Harry Angel there with Lamato now challenging the Tin Man with it all to do. Caravaggio trying to come stand side. Harry Angel, though, leads Lamato, an intelligence cross. Brando flashing home. It's Harry Angel that wins the July Cup.
And there was always a lot expected of him. You know, he had a high reputation right from the outset. He's a really well-bred sprinter. He's by Dark Angel. You've ridden a lot of very fast horses. What particularly about him made him into a champion?
Well, obviously his cruising speed and everything about him. He's had extremely high cruising speed, and his turn of foot was second to none.
And presumably willing. A willing horse, yeah, a horse who wanted to do it for you.
Very willing, always very willing. Never thought for one day he always give me everything.
We saw how explosive a racehorse he was on the track, but he appears to be settling down beautifully into life as a stallion. Was he a gentleman at home?
Yes, he was always very easy to deal with in the morning, and chuff him to be here now.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see him in such a beautiful place, and he deserves that place. And you've had the opportunity to send him a mare. How's that mating worked out?
Yeah, but seems to be very nice. She's a filly foal. She's very stocky. She looks quite athletic. I'm really pleased with her.
Well, fingers crossed for her, and hopefully he can go onwards and upwards. I'm pretty confident that he can produce the goods at stud. Adam, thanks so much for chatting to us. It's lovely to see him.
Thank you very much. Good boy.
Well, from the brazen speed of Harry Angel to the complete racehorse, the classy racehorse that was Golden Horn. And you just look in your paper every day and he's having winners at the moment. And John, you trained Golden Horn as well, one of my personal favourites. What a wonderful racehorse he was. He had everything.
Yeah, he was. Beautifully balanced horse. Really gorgeous looking and easy mover. And incredible acceleration, whether it was a mile and a quarter, mile and a half. I think his best trip was the mile 2. You know, when he won the Irish Champion, those races, he was devastating. But he could just open up 3 lengths on a field in a hurry. And he had this cool attitude about life. He was never flustered by anything. And he was pretty laid back around the place, just took everything in. He quite enjoyed wrestling matches. If you ever were late in the evening, you go down and he was just such a character. He'd like to just throw his neck around and play. He's had a lot upstairs. Very, very intelligent horse, blessed with speed, extremely sound, and never, ever had the tiniest problem with him soundness-wise, which is pretty unusual. Usually something comes up. And I would say that for him it's been difficult this year, because for him to lose April and May at the beginning of the season, end of March, April, May, when his first crop of 3-year-olds would be doing what he did. You know, he went from the field into the Dante to the Derby to the Eclipse, bang, 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 bang. He just took those races right in his stride. Well, unfortunately, sons and daughters have been precluded from April and May this year, which is incredibly important when you're developing 3-year-olds, particularly when you want to go a mile and a quarter. So I think the fact he's having a cluster of winners now is indicative to how hard it's been for him. But the ones I have, they're just getting better, and they're coming to the fore as well. But we haven't had an opportunity to run them before.
And do they share that same temperament, that very likeable temperament?
Yeah, they do. They're pretty cool. You know, there was a big commotion going on somewhere. He'd just look at it and say, well, they'll settle down in a minute and get on. There was nothing ever flustered him. He was just a great horse, and you know, he would have had the perfect record had not been some ground that he didn't like loose ground. He could just pick up and just accelerate, and when it spun under his wheels like it did in the Breeders' Cup in that sand pit in the rain in Keenan, that wasn't his scene. But a mighty fine horse to be around, and a pleasure to train. You're not allowed to say that, but it's a total pleasure to train.
Why? Clearly, and
well, because people pay training fees for it.
Yeah, and then but the fact you could run him as regularly as you did.
He took some racing, and I tell you what, he'd been unbeatable at 4, but he had to come here, you know.
He'd almost done too much. He proved himself too valuable.
Yeah, he should have missed a couple of races, and I could have kept him at 4.
Longchamp was a pretty special day, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And away they go, the 94th Qatar Prix.
There's a plan. Frankie and I stood in the stalls and thought, it's a bad draw. There's one way to overcome this. We'll just float down the outside, pick out the pacemaker for Trev and just slot him behind the pacemaker, which is exactly what Frankie did, and the rest was history.
And he just kept rolling. And it's an unconventional track, and people find it difficult to ride, and horses find it difficult to run, but those two together on that day were just perfection.
Yeah, Frankie always says, you know, that last 2 furlongs in an arc, if you've committed early, there's like arrows at your back. But he said the speed I was going 12 flat. No one was going to catch me. They couldn't after a mile and a half, the way he accelerated. And that's what he had, that glorious turn of foot.
Golden Horn from French Iron second, and here comes Trev in third. She's not going to get there.
Real pace in the Eclipse, as you were saying, real pace in the Dante when he brushed another good horse, Jack Hobbs, that you trained aside, the balance for the Derby, and then just the class to outpoint Trev in the arc. It's all in a...
It is, and when he was at the Champion Stakes in Ireland, he just sort of played around the last furlong. I looked at that, saw a camera tripod under the rail, and, hey, what's that? And he was just playing, and could beat those horses doing that. He was mightily talented.
So we're off to Ireland now, to Kildangan Stud, where Blue Point is parading. The natural heir to the late and much-missed Darley stalwart and brilliant racehorse and stallion, Shamadal. And the man who handled Blue Point so brilliantly through a 4-season racing career is Charlie Appleby, who's with me now. What a special horse Blue Point is as a potential stallion, and has been as a racehorse for you, Charlie.
He's, as an early 2-year-old there, Nick, he was one of the horses that always excited us in the morning. You know, questions have been posed to me many times now. I mean, who has been the most exciting horse you've trained? And it'll always be, to this date, Blue Point. You know, he turned it on in the mornings and he delivered in the afternoons. And we can say it's quite rare to see in a racehorse, to be honest. You know, ever since he broke his maiden, from there onwards he competed at group level. Obviously the highlight being the famous double there of the Kingston and Diamond Jubilee last year. And I think that just shows the mentality of that horse and the constitution to be able to achieve that and to be able to achieve, like I say, 4 seasons competing at group level. I want to take you back to York in his 2-year-old career, where he won there and he was so impressive. And I remember you saying at the time, I think this horse is a sprinter. Yeah, because, you know, obviously we went to the gym crack there confident we were going to be a big player that day, and he went and delivered. As always, going into the autumn of their 2-year-old careers, you're contemplating whether you can stretch them and look towards that Guineas programme. And thankfully, the new sprinting programme in respects to the Commonwealth, it allows us trainers to be able to sort of try and identify the 2-year-olds a bit more towards the end of the season in what we're going to be looking at as 3-year-olds. And again, full credit to the horse there. We ran him in the middle park there He just got touched off, stepped him up again a couple of weeks later in the Dewhurst and ran a very creditable race, finishing third as well. So it just, again, shows his mentality and his constitution. But what we found was, during the winter, and the evidence of what we saw in the Dewhurst, sprinting was always going to be his game. And from there onwards, he barely let us down.
And typical of a sprinter, he got better as he got older and stronger. Talk to me about his physique.
We're very lucky at Godolphin to be able to hold on to some of these horses, and we don't see it so often nowadays. But we were confident going into Dubai season there as a 4-year-old, and then he turning at 5. We had a finished article, mentally as much as physically. He was the ultimate professional. We saw him develop from 4 to 5. He is the model of his father. I mean, I was very lucky enough to be able to see Shamadah and himself standing opposite one another there at Kildangan last year, and you really could just see he was the apple of his father's eye, and in his markings and in his, like I say, what he's achieved and mentally where he was. So as an article going into our European season, I was confident going into Ascot. I was very confident going into the King's Stand, as much as Batash is a very respected horseman, and we've seen what he's done this year now, going on to win the King's Stand after finishing second to Blue Point twice. But going into that King's Stand last year, I couldn't see him getting beat.
Head towards the line, Blue Point in front. Batash nearest to us, trying to get to him, but it's the same as last year. Blue Point from Batash.
Thankfully, he went and delivered, and all roads sort of led to the Diamond Jubilee, where again he didn't let us down.
As far as his constitution is concerned, what was it that enabled him to be able to do that, to wheel back after beating a horse like Batash and come and win a tougher race stamina-wise, the Diamond Jubilee?
Again, it's like any sportsman's mental strength, isn't it? And the way they can deal with the competition that they've been in. And there's one thing with his maturity, he learned to deal with the pre and post race. As a 2-year-old and as a 3-year-old, you could see he was highly strung. He just wanted to get on and get the job done, but he matured into it, dealt with the preliminaries very well, and most importantly, he knew what to do once the race was over. And he did all the right stuff. He relaxed and did all the stuff you want to see. And
as far as what this horse meant to you and your team and everyone associated with the yard, just tell me a bit about his personality, what he was like as a character.
He's very much a family member to the team and to my own family. Been with us there from his 2-year-old days and was part of the furniture, as they say, in the yard. But more so, like I say, he was a family member. I felt what showed one of his best parts of his character was, after the Royal Ascot and the success of the King's Stand and Diamond Jubilee, we knew he was going to be retiring to stud. I was fortunate enough to be able to bring the children down to see him, and we decided we'd do our social media bit and take our photo with him and as a team. And anyway, the girls pulled him out there, and bearing in mind only a week earlier he'd, let's say, competed twice at the highest level at Royal Ascot. They brought him out on his bridle and chiffney and brought him out into the middle of the yard there and had their photos taken and videos, and he just treated them as a family friend, and I felt that's a very humble racehorse.
I remember that very well. Have you got it with you?
I have, actually, as we say. No,
the video of let's have a look, see if we can find it here. And that's your 3 daughters.
That's correct, yeah. So we've got Emily and Erin's trying to hold on to him as he's trying to pick some grass. And lovely. I did say, just try and be a bit careful. He's got a bit of value to him.
So they were how old then?
So the twins were 7 and Edith was 5. So looking after, hopefully, a stallion for the future.
That's a photo to remember and keep, isn't it?
For sure, exactly. And like I say, I think that just shows that the attributes of him as a racehorse. He knew when to turn on his A game, and he also has the characteristics there to, as I say, be a nice person.
Lovely pictures there of Blue Point with all the young Applebys. And we'll be back with Charlie a little bit later on talking about the Derby hero Massa. But let's concentrate for a moment on the wider racing family and how Godolphin and Sheikh Mohammed have helped that through the decades. You'll be familiar with the Godolphin Stud and Stable Staff Awards, with the Lifetime Care Programme for retired racehorses, Papineau perhaps being the most famous example, and of course the Godolphin Flying Start that has helped so many talented people around the world. Well, now we can introduce something a little different, a little more expansive, and to tell me a bit more is Diana Cooper, who's head of Godolphin's global charitable endeavours. Diana, this is the Community Engagement and Education Programme. Just tell me about the genesis of this.
The leadership that Sheikh Mohammed has shown us through what he does himself, but specifically how much more of a neighbour, of a great friend the racing industry can be and the breeding industry can be around all our hubs, all our communities. But we want to do something that's sustainable. So there's nothing better than us all working together, to collaborate, to have a kind of cohesive approach. There's so much great work being done in the UK and in all the other big racing nations around the world. Racing Together has done a phenomenal job here in the UK. The Racing Foundation is really helping to bring people together. But what we want to really do is help them sustain just a better future for our industry.
There's mutual benefit.
Yes.
Because racing, as you say, has been very good at looking after its own, very good at looking after its own workforce, both human and equine, but it's getting out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's getting people into the sport, to love the animal as much as anything else.
If we can show that in a town like Newmarket, where horses cross the road every morning, but actually they become it's such second nature that people perhaps don't even think about the fact that that's a great, wonderful animal with an enormous, ginormous beating heart. But they might not be. You don't have to be a rider or work with the horse to benefit from it. Up at the Interjockeys Fund, you can be a physiotherapist. You can be a lawyer. There's so many trades that revolve around our industry, and that's something else we'd like to kind of opens people's eyes and create that symbiotic relationship.
And the key word here, engagement, because it's very easy for people to want the public to appreciate our sport, the wider public to appreciate our sport, but we have to appreciate the communities in which we exist.
Absolutely, and I think acknowledging that in the first place was a step that we took in November last year by inviting some of the leading stakeholders of the industry from Japan, Australia, America, France, Ireland, here to the UK, here to Newmarket, to come together and brainstorm about how best, through collaboration, we can create a stronger workforce, do more for the communities who around all our hubs, around all our racecourses, our breeding and racing centres, so that we all benefit together. This is an industry that really cares. We're embedded in our communities and we can be proper neighbours to each other.
We'll talk about engagement. There's nothing that engages the community of horse racing quite like the Derby, or indeed more important, in producing stallions through the generations. And as we look at a Derby hero here, we see a really fine specimen. His copper coat gleaming in the Dalham Hall sunshine. Son of a Derby winner, grandson of a Derby winner, inbred to the amazing broodmare Urban Sea. He's Massa, and Charlie, you trained Massa, and they'll never take that away from you.
No, thankfully not. He was a pleasure to train and a delight to train. He was very professional. In his early career there as a 2-year-old there, he won first time up at Goodwood over the 6 furlongs, as you know, that can be challenging. He then went on to run a very credible race in the Chesham. Came out there with won impressively the Solero Stakes.
Yeah, to me, he was the most impressive winner of the Solario since Raven's Pass. He very much reminded me of him when he won the Solario.
But it's Massa for Godolphin, who leads here from Romanised, then Arbalay, and it's going to be Massa to win the Solario Stakes. Massa has beaten Romanised.
And we saw a big difference in him from there as well. We felt he jumped forward a good bit from that success.
Very unlucky at Del Mar when you took him to the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, unfortunately it was just one of those races it didn't materialise, so we put a line through it. We took him back to Dubai then for the winter with a plan of we'd sit on the fence of whether we were going to run or not, but he was getting a bit above his station during the winter there, so we all felt it was the right thing to do, was to take a chance and run him on the dirt there and see whether he might materialise into a UAE Derby candidate. Quite clearly after the first 2 furlongs we realised that we weren't going to be doing that, so anyway, but it wasn't an unsuccessful mission, because like I say, it just put some manners back on him again for the winter. We then came back, shipped back into the UK there, went straight into the Craven, and he was an emphatic Craven winner there.
He had Roaring Lion miles behind him.
That's right, it was a great race, and to see him quicken up the way he did from free out, Many wise men have told me there, any horse that wins a craven like that will always going to be very competitive in the Guineas, and he was. But the one thing William did when he got off the horse was say he rode like a mile and a quarter, mile and a half horse going forward, and we then felt we would then take the step and go straight up to the mile and a half and go straight to the Derby. Hopefully, as we see here today, he looks fantastic. Physically, for me, he's an ultimate racehorse. He's a very athletic and a very good-looking horse.
So we'll take a spin back over to Ireland, to Kildangan, where it's not quite such a glorious day as it is here at Stallion Hall. And we'll look at another speedster, real speedball here, 5 furlong horse through and through, Profitable. Adam, you rode Profitable and you had a glorious run with him through that spring where he took that sort of 5 furlong triple crown, if you like, of the Palace House at Newmarket, the Temple at Haydock and the King's Stand at Ascot. What really set him apart?
He was, he had a great will to win. As long as you played him late enough, because when he hit the front, he used to think he'd won. But when we got things the right way around with him, he just started to improve.
Palace House, big field. You had good horses in the race as well behind you, like Take Cover and the multiple Group 1 winner Soul Power. It seemed quite straightforward for you, though. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Listen, it's a massive field, and the pace was very, very strong, and he took me through the race nicely, got a nice toe into it, and I remember getting there quite late on, but that was the start of him really starting to move forward, and he'd done nothing but improve through getting confidence from that.
And I know they sometimes call the 5 furlong races the fluky 5 because horses can't string consistent efforts together. He was different. He would run consistently almost every time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was a very gutsy horse, and once his confidence was up, he used to just bring me there on the bridle. It was a matter of pressing the button and not getting there too soon. 3
very different tracks as well. Newmarket, Haydock, Ascot. Haydock, the fastest, flattest 5 of the 3. How did he feel that day?
Yeah, very same as a very, very well-balanced horse. He used to take me through the races very smooth, and even Newmarket, he'd come down the hill easy.
And you go to Royal Ascot, that's the one you want to win. You've had great success there. Do you remember the confidence with which you approached the King's Stand?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, he'd give me a great ride. He made my life very simple. He just parked up, he relaxed just on a wing. And again, it was just a matter of not getting there too soon. He was a class apart.
Profitable and Kotoi Glory as they race close home. Profitable is inching home, and Profitable wins the King's Stand from Kotoi Glory.
So he had that unusual combination of being able to switch off when you needed him to switch off, even though he was in top gear, and then being able to explode off that.
Yeah, absolutely. He had a great turn of foot, and had a great mind, and he's a very, very simple horse, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
And he's a horse who excelled obviously as a 3 and 4 year old, but he was good enough to win impressively at 2. He was a real sort of muscular, precocious horse.
Absolutely. We thought the world of him when he was a young horse, and probably the only reason he got beat a few times is because we probably riding him the wrong way. We're putting him in a race a little bit too early. He was a horse that loved to come late. When he hit the front, he always thought he'd won, but no, listen, he was a power-packed little horse.
And we're staying in County Kildare now for a true stallion phenomenon. He's the best ever first season sire, and as Royal Ascot ended, he had more Group and listed winners than any other stallion since the pattern began at the equivalent stage of their careers. He is, of course, Knight of Thunder. As the dust settled after Royal Ascot, Knight of Thunder had sired 12 first crop stakes winners. We've never seen anything like it. Astonishingly, it's as many as his sire Dubawi and maternal grandsire Galileo had at the same stage of their career put together. Let's have a look at one of his best so far, the exciting Jersey winner, Malatham.
Final furlong, Monarch of Egypt on the far side of Malatham. Monarch of Egypt and Malatham, they go stride for stride, neck and neck up towards the line. Malatham near side of Monarch of Egypt, Malatham.
And just this week, he's had the Group 2 Dante hero Thunderous. You've got to admire his head-down determination, as well as the unbeaten Group 2 Italian Oaks winner Aoyantepui. Knight of Thunder, by Dubawi, by Dubai Millennium. You've got the story of Darley striding right in front of you. An unbeaten 2-year-old, if you remember, then conqueror of Kingman and Australia, and a total of 8 Group 1 winners in a great running of the Guineas. Then back for the Lockinge at 4. He was quite a horse, but he's an even better stallion. Knight of Thunder, led up by Damon Howard, the best stallion at his stage in his career of any stallion ever. So we know full well now what Night of Thunder can do, and you'd be forgiven for looking for the next Night of Thunder. Well, you might not have to look very far, because he could be right under our very noses here at Dalham Hall. How about another son of Dubawi? How about a European champion racehorse? How about a King George winner, a Shima Classic winner, and a brilliant winner of the 10-furlong Juddmonte International? He is the very popular and very good-looking Postponed. The King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes, the Juddmonte International earning a 130 rating from Timeform, the Dubai Shima Classic in a new course record, and what about this? The Derby course and distance for the Coronation Cup.
Postponed, who moves up in threatening fashion and now takes the pacemaker on. Found, however, is waiting in the wings. Then Simple Verse and second step. Postponed took over and with the minimum of fuss has gone 3 or 4 lengths clear. Found that Roseberg, who's run a mighty race as pacemaker, are battling out second. But Postponed in a classy field for the QE2 Coronation Cup will win really well.
Arc winner Found, 4.5 lengths back in second. Postponed, easy to overlook his juvenile form after the dominance of his later years, but he was rated only £5 behind his contemporary Night of Thunder at 2, while his Grand Dam was a champion at 2. He's a horse for all seasons. Postponed, led up by Artur Jesiorski. His oldest are now yearlings, and there are some very well-bred ones amongst them, including close relations of Pinatubo and Batash, and siblings to Group 1 winners Lord North and Hunter's Light. They made up to 280,000 guineas as foals, so he's obviously passing on his superior looks and action. After the soar-away success of Dubawi as a sire of sires, Postponed is very much one to keep on the right side. Thank you, Artur. So that was Postponed, and how about this horse as the next Night of Thunder? This one's from the Shamadal sire line. He was a top-class miler himself, and at the corresponding stage of his career with more first-crop 2-year-old winners than Night of Thunder himself. This is Bellardo. It's a very hard act to follow, but it's going to be exciting to watch how the Bellardo youngsters develop over the summer and into the autumn. If they are anything like him, we're in for some fun, because Bellardo went from his maiden to putting in a great effort in the July Stakes, to winning a Newbury-listed race by a wide margin, to earning champion 2-year-old status with this resounding triumph in the Dewhurst Stakes.
The gap's there now for Bellardo, who comes out of the pack to throw down the challenge to Cody Bear, and Bellardo had to buff it through, but is now in full cry and is coming away to win the Dubai Dewhurst Stakes. Bellardo wins.
Bellardo, who's being led up by Damon Howard, went on to be a Group 1 winning miler, and his racing successes have distinct echoes of his grandsire's big wins. That grandsire, of course, the superlative Kildangan stallion, Shamadal. Bellardo's yearlings made up to 200,000 guineas at the sales, and do watch out for those 2-year-olds. Goodwood debut winner Lullaby Moon, Golden Melody, Isabella Giles. They all look capable of going from strength to strength, and there's sure to be good ones among those who have yet to run. That's Bellardo parading over at Kildangan Stud. Thank you, Damon. And from one Dewhurst winner to another, and perhaps the definitive winner of that race, he was rated the highest in that particular contest this century, higher even than Pinatubo and the great Frankl. He is too darn hot. He is resident now here at Dalham Hall. He is a son of Dubawi. And the other day here, I was lucky enough to catch up with his owner breeder, Madeline Lloyd-Webber. Madeline, it must be quite special standing here with Too Darn Hot. 27 years of Watership Down history in the hallowed box at Dalham Hall. How do you feel when you see him here?
Well, it's extraordinary, really, because, of course, you know, we're a stud that we sell our colts and we race our fillies, and I'm still feeling we're new boys on the block, really. A 27-year-old stud is quite new. But he is just a horse that is first everywhere. It's a first colt racehorse that we haven't been able to sell for various reasons. It's a first champion 2-year-old, the first champion 3-year-old, and the first stallion. So for 27 years, it's been extraordinary. We've been doing the same thing, and then suddenly he crops up, and we're experiencing all this excitement and fun.
So take me back to Durara, his granddam, and where she came from and how you got hold of her.
She was bought in Ireland. We thought we were slightly punching above our weight on that one because we thought we'd be blown out by other well-known stud owners in Ireland. So we bought her very expensively. And then she basically was our fantastic foundation broodmare, and she bred Darley, who was his mother, and she's just been the most incredible race mare for us, and then she's been the most incredible broodmare. And we've got now 4 full sisters and brothers out of Darley, and Too Darn Hot was meant to go to the sales and couldn't, and so we decided to race him.
And he is a different model and a different type to many of the members of the family, but is it right that he would resemble Grandam Durara more than some of the others?
Well, absolutely. I mean, looking at all the pictures and my memory of Durara, she was smaller and neater, and she also had a lot of speed as well, and she was a fantastic race mare and broodmare. And also he looks a bit like his father, apparently, as well. We've seen them both together, Dubawi.
And it's lovely now that he's here next door to Dubawi, who's had such an enormous impact on the breed. And you, as breeders, went long on Dubawi for a while, didn't you? And this is the produce.
That's right. We took a risk at the beginning. Simon Marsh absolutely loved Dubawi, and so we went full into Dubawi and was proved right. He's a fantastic sire, obviously. You know, we're thrilled that we did that and took that risk.
What are your earliest memories of this horse when he was a foal?
He was always cheeky, and he was always at you. If he'd been a person, he'd always be somebody that was interrupting you and always messing around and always interested in what was going on over the fence, and he just always grabbed your attention. He's an attention seeker. Andrew took an interest. You know, we have a lot of foals, you know, being born, and there's always stuff going on, and he always took an interest in this one. And even when I went up to Malcolm Bastard's to see him just after he was broken, and he was cantering away and doing a little bit of work, Andrew was keen to come, and it's the first time he'd ever been up there to see them at that stage, and he fell in love with his horse. And then, of course, he named him, and much to everyone's disgust, no one liked the name except for Andrew, and of course it's turned out to be a fantastic name for a racehorse.
It's a brilliant name, and a homage to Cole Porter into the bargain.
Absolutely, so there's lots of links there, but you know, sometimes they grab you, these foals, yearlings, and he was one that just, you couldn't take your eyes off him. He's just a star.
When he went into training with John Gosden, were you getting good feedback straight away?
We got good feedback, yes. I mean, Malcolm Bastard said this is one of the nicest horses he's broken in. I mean, he loved him. And he said, if this isn't a champion, then I don't know what I'm talking about. So we'd already got excited.
Yeah.
And then, of course, John ran him pretty quickly. After he went into training, he was running within 3 weeks. So he must have liked him.
His 2-year-old campaign was, I suppose, one of not surprises, but each step he seemed to take so easily.
Well, it was surprises for us. I mean, we didn't know if he was going to stay sound. He had the injury from when he was a foal. We had no idea if he could stand up to racing. So every race to us was a bonus. Getting on the track was a bonus. Winning his first maiden. And then we went through the Group 3, 2, 1 in pretty much consecutive 2 weeks, fortnights. So it all happened in a whirlwind. And we were just enjoying every moment of it.
It's interesting what you were saying, because he's had to overcome a little bit of adversity along the way as well. The way you describe him and his character, whether you think that his mental toughness was a contributory factor to his performance on the racecourse.
Yes, he took it all very well. He loved his outings. He gets bored easily. So the minute he goes into that truck and gets onto the racecourse, he lights up and he's thrilled with the attention.
3 in a line race up the hill inside the final furlong in the Dewhurst, and Too Darn Hot taking off out wide from Advertise and Anthony Van Dyke, and Too Darn Hot looking a very special 2-year-old and wins easily with Frankie saluting the crowd.
So I do think that the horse's character and intellect comes into it.
Would his temperament be typical of the other members of his family, or is he slightly different?
I would say he was just slightly busier and slightly more attentive. I mean, they're all beautifully mannered. I mean, this family, their temperaments are fabulous. I mean, Darley travelled the whole world, you know, winning races. So they do have great temperaments. I'd just say he was just a bit more alert, maybe.
So with that in mind, he should be perfect for this job, his new job. How have you supported him as breeders?
We have bought broodmares to send to him here and in Australia. I think we've got 5 in foal at the moment to him, so we've got major skin in the game here. I don't think we expect 150 breeders sending their horses to him. They're precious mares to him if we don't, so we absolutely believe in him.
And I suppose you have to. You know, if he's yours, and you know, you've got such an interest, and you've raced him, and you've had the faith in him, and you've bred him, you want him to excel in his new career.
Yes, and everything he's done at championship level, and there's absolutely no reason why he shouldn't be a champion stallion as well. And when you look at him, you can't fault him conformation, you can't fault his speed, you can't fault his temperament, and frankly, touching everything, you can't fault his soundness.
And so, from the prince to the king, the undisputed king, the most successful sire by any metric to have ever stood in Great Britain, and a horse who is master of all he surveys here at Dalham Hall. He is, of course, Dubawi. Led up by Artur Jeziorski, here's the king in his domain. You know, by just about any measure you wish to choose, number of stakes winners or group winners, or by group or grade 1 winners to runners, he's the finest stallion ever to have stood at stud in Britain. He's the only British stallion ever to sire more than 100 group winners, and his total has already raced up to 120. Think of some of his recent stars. Gaiath scintillating from the front wins, including the Coral Eclipse on Sunday. New Bay's French Derby. Ben Battle, he looked quite amazing winning the Joel Stakes last year. Night of Thunder, of course. French Derby winner Mishrif is his great-grandson, such is his influence. In the same crop as unbeaten European champion juvenile Too Darn Hot was undefeated Irish champion juvenile Quarto. Also in that crop, Lord North, the first horse since Halling to go from the Cambridgeshire to Group 1 glory. Let's see his big Royal Ascot win in the Prince of Wales' stakes. That's him third from the right.
And at the furlong pole, the 7 runners will virtually be in line here. And Dave just leading to Lord North in the blue and white now. He's shot through from the back of the field with James Doyle. Surges through to the lead. And it's Lord North who now begins to clear away another superstar here. Lord North wins by 3 or 4 lengths.
That's what so many Dubawis do. Start very good and just get better and better. Brilliant and resilient. Unsurprisingly, auction fame follows him around too. He's sired the top-priced European yearling in 4 of the last 5 years. Dubawi, the best of our sport, of the breed, the best of Darley. Thank you, Artur. Well, absolutely the fitting way to end, and thanks so much for watching, and I'm sure you'll join me in thanking all the staff here at Dalham Hall and those at Kildangan who produced these marvellous animals in such fantastic condition. Don't forget that if you want any information about the stallions here or anywhere in the world, you can look at the Darley websites and all the social media channels, and we are hoping that we will see you back here in person in 2021. Hope you enjoyed it. Do stay safe.